How's it going? I just woke up from a nap. It's crazy. Vlogmas 23, I think. I mean, I'm not wearing the Santa hat, but we'll call it Vlogmas 23 anyway, just because I'd like to get one out. And I want to follow up on yesterday's Vlogmas because I released it later in the evening. And, I think not as many people had a chance to see it. So I want to go through the forecast again. Besides that, we're a day later, which means the computer models have had a chance to crank through this storm, and we're going to find out once and for all if it's going to snow for Christmas. We won't find out once and for all until after Christmas, but this is at least, as of right now, the best guesses that the computer models have on a white Christmas here in western Iowa. And then, I'll talk about the rest of the country too. So hopefully I'll hit on where you live as well as we go through it. So let's go to the maps. There we go. Got it pulled up here. This is Pivotal Weather. So if you go to pivotalweather.com, you can go through all this your very own self. And I'm going to remind you a couple things. So first of all, this is the date that the forecast is valid for. This is the date that the GFS cranked out. This is the GFS run from today at 12Z, which is 6 o'clock Central Time. So this is the 6 o'clock this morning run of the GFS, and we're almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon as I'm recording. And this is the forecast for noon, or 2 hours ago. So this is how things should have looked if it initialized correctly. This is what the map looked like 2 hours ago across the country. So some basically light scattered snow showers through Montana, Wyoming, parts of Idaho, down through Utah, Colorado, and basically the Four Corners. So some of the higher elevations of western New Mexico and eastern Arizona. I noted this morning it was snowing. This Payson, Arizona is right around here. Payson's beautiful. Love Payson. And they've got elevation, and then the White Mountains are here too. So they're getting some snow up in the Whites. And this is rain. Looks like maybe even a thunderstorm. That would be north of Ruidoso, kind of up near Carrizozo. So there you go. And then a little bit of rain coming through the panhandle of Texas into west. You get the idea. So this is where we are 2 hours ago. So let's go through it. So we talked about this yesterday too. So as this low really gets its act together, it's going to be pulling up moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. And this southerly flow has warmth all the way into southern Canada. It's warm in Minnesota, at least compared to average. I know it's 50 degrees right now here in Iowa. I live right about there, where that plus sign is. That's about where I live. Yeah, I'd say right about there. And so it's 50 right now. The average high this time of year is like 30 something, low to mid 30s. So anyway, as this low strengthens, we're going to see more showers and storms busting out ahead of it. Oklahoma, some pretty good storms going here. West Texas down to the Big Bend, and then along the Gulf Coast as well. And then on the backside, we're seeing the snow getting a little bit more organized through Wyoming and Colorado and maybe Santa Fe, New Mexico. And then as we go through time, you see that the rain showers increasing and pulling northward all the way into South Dakota, North Dakota, and Minnesota across Nebraska. My goodness. So this is midnight tonight right here. And then the snow, of course, on the backside. A little bit of light snow here in New York, and rain near Lake Erie in Ontario. So that light snow continues, and then this rain continues to increase. And as we get to tomorrow morning, this is 6 a.m., and I'm right here picking up the donuts before church at 7 a.m. So maybe it'll hold off. Maybe I can stay dry tomorrow morning. Snow starting to accelerate on the backside in Nebraska. McCook right here, moving out of the Denver area and into even like northwestern Kansas. And then as we go, here's the rain tomorrow. Like, it's going to rain a lot tomorrow. And we need it. Boy, do we need it. There's been a long-term drought here in western Iowa and much of Nebraska. So this rain is welcome. And I guess, I've lived in the Midwest less than a year, so I haven't been through a winter here yet. And they're talking about, I guess it's a thing where the ground gets frozen. And then if you get rain on top of it, it runs off. It doesn't soak in. So the ground's not frozen, so it's going to soak in. So this is also good news for farmers and it's cornfields here. It's a lot of them. All right, let's go through time. So tomorrow, rainy day, rainy day, rainy day, all the way from Canada through Minnesota, through Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, parts of Louisiana, moving into Mississippi, and some real heavy rain here off the Gulf Coast that should be moving into Florida. And Mississippi seeing a good amount of rain as well. And this rain slowly moving off to the east. This low is going to be slowly moving to the north. The 540 line that I talked about yesterday, this is generally the freezing line or the demarcation between snow and rain. So snow near the 540 line and on the colder side, and then rain ahead of it. And so you watch the 540 line also starting to sink southward as we go. Now that low is starting to lift. We're starting to see more snow now develop in Nebraska, just along the Missouri River. Hasn't quite crossed over to my part of Iowa. And then the heavy rainfall now moving into Alabama and into Georgia. Also parts of Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and into Wisconsin. And the UP of Michigan getting rain this time of year is kind of crazy. And a new system looks like moving on shore. So I grew up in Oregon, right about there. All right, keeping this moving now. This is what I'm most interested in because I love snow. And I'm 60 years old. I've only had a couple white Christmases in my whole life. Now, the average here in Harlan, Iowa, for your percentage of getting a white Christmas is about 40% here, 30 to 40%. So it's not every year, but certainly a lot higher than what I'm used to. And there's that rain-snow line mix. We're probably going to be staying in the rain here. This is Christmas morning at 9 a.m. Next slide, please. Here's noon. The low's starting to lift. We're starting to see some freezing rain, sleet mixing in parts of Minnesota, northwestern Iowa. Snow is picking up in South Dakota and in eastern Nebraska, especially northeastern Nebraska. And then we're seeing, again, the heavy rain moving eastward. South Carolina now getting into that. More of Florida getting into the heavy rain with embedded thunderstorms. Kentucky, some moderate rain. Same with Indiana and so forth. And then as this low lifts northward, we're seeing the wraparound moisture and coolness bringing that snow back around to the backside. So this is going to be so close to where I live. Any movement of this low, right? If the forecast stays exactly true, this is what will happen, right? But if the low is just 50 miles east, then all this snow will be on top of me. Conversely, if the low is 50 miles west, then I'm going to be in the dry slot here. So you see this dry area. The dry air is being sucked into the low here. That's called the dry slot. And we'll get nothing. So this is very close call here. Now, if you're in South Dakota, the eastern half of South Dakota, especially the eastern third of South Dakota, man, you're going to get a lot of snow from this system. It's just cranking over there. And see, as the low starts to retrograde back northwest, then we're in that dry slot, so we're not getting anything. And this is midnight Christmas night. So will we have a white Christmas here? Probably not, according to this model. Now, again, it's just a slight deviation, and that could change. The low is starting to weaken now, and we've got snow lingering across Nebraska into Iowa and Kansas and South Dakota and North Dakota with this freezing rain, sleet mix going on in northern Minnesota and into southern Canada. And some heavy rain now just off the coast of South Carolina, moving into the Carolinas. And a muddy Christmas for Michigan. Now, this low is going to sit here for a while, and the light snow is going to stay in the area for a while. So the day after Christmas at noon is going to be cold and light snow. in my area here, and a little bit of light snow in Idaho. And the rain, not as intense along the eastern seaboard, North Carolina, Virginia. And yeah, looks like Missouri getting into some of this light snow. And if that falls long enough, you'll get some accumulations, but it looks real light. South Dakota, them that has gets, as my dad likes to say. So South Dakota, with all that snow, we're going to be adding more onto it as we get into not quite Wednesday yet. There's Wednesday. And you can see the snow starting to fall apart as the low falls apart. Look at the 540 line, pretty far south. I've looked at our local forecast. We're going to have 4 days at least below freezing. So it's not going to get above freezing for highs. We're going to crack 35 Christmas Day, and then and then the rest of the week below freezing for highs, and colder than that for lows, obviously. And then that low skedaddles and we're done. All right, so that's one solution. This is the GFS. Let's check out. I wanted to see what the European has to say. Is this the right one? Yeah. So let's see what the European has to say. We'll go faster this time. And you see the rain again in Texas, the snow on the backside of the low. This is almost tomorrow. That's tomorrow at midnight. Or tonight at midnight, however you slice that. Some pretty heavy rain moving into Louisiana with this. So that's tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Pretty close to what the GFS was saying. Maybe a little bit heavier rain down here, Houston into Louisiana. Some pretty good drenchers here. And yes, rain, Christmas Eve day, Minnesota, my part of Iowa, a lot of Iowa, the western half at least, a little bit more. I think Greg lives right up in here, Mason City. It's going to be rain, Greg. And then we're talking, more rain stretching down the Gulf Coast because we're pulling up that warm, moist air. The backside's where it's turning into snow in Nebraska and South Dakota. As we get into tomorrow afternoon and evening, this model has it wetter and not as cold and not as snowy. But as the low lifts, it's starting to pull in some of that colder air. So as we get into Christmas, this is Christmas morning, 6 a.m., snowing in Omaha, snowing in Lincoln, snowing in Columbus, snowing in Hastings. And then as you get into South Dakota, a little bit lighter snow, and then some of that ice here. And then, of course, the heavy rain now trailing back into the south. We're talking Alabama and Georgia, a lot of Tennessee getting pretty wet, along with Kentucky, parts of Indiana, Illinois, and Missouri. The low lifting northward, pulling in more cold air. This is a better snowstorm on the European for central Nebraska and much of western Nebraska than the GFS, but this is also further west. You see the rain all in Iowa. That rain-snow line is not as close to me on this model, and the ice right along the Missouri River. And as we go, the low retrogrades west. We stay rain. Nebraska and South Dakota getting most of the snow, starting to get some light snow into Kansas. And then the rain continues now in Wisconsin and still Minnesota, Michigan, and into the Ohio Valley and down in South and North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. And see that low just wobbling around. The snow mostly on the northwest side, north and west side. So this particular model has very light snow for me as we get into the day after Christmas. And some more light snow in the area, maybe some mix. The 540 line not quite as far south. So the European not pulling down as much cold air. And rain, light snow, and then even some light rain showers as we get into the 28th. So I have one more model I wanted to check. Let me see if I can find it here. I'm having to look around my camera. What did I pull up earlier today? Was it the Canadian? I think this is the Canadian Ensemble. I think I just did this for snow. Let's go straight to the snow. I have two different ensembles for snow depth. And this is what the Canadian Ensemble is saying for snow on the ground as we go through time. So you can just see that is Christmas night at about 6 p.m. pretty close to what it had yesterday. So you can't, there's an ad down here and I have it cropped anyway. So you can't really see the key, but the light blue is 1 inch. And as you get into the darker blue, that's about 3 to 4 inches. And then the gray is less than 1 inch. So since I live about here, this is saying less than 1 inch for me, but not too far away when those amounts increase. Looks like Omaha gets accumulating snow along with Lincoln and along with Columbus and the bullseye here in South Dakota for Christmas. This is midnight. So yeah, South Dakota looks like the bullseye for you on this particular model. Now, there's one more model I wanted to check. Now remember, we're still a couple days away, so things can change a little bit. Was it the GEFS, I think, is what I did? And it is. So this is I believe the GFS Ensemble. So the GEFS, G Ensemble FS. Anyway, so this is Christmas midnight, Christmas 6 a.m., Christmas noon, Christmas 6 p.m., and midnight Christmas. Pretty similar. Pretty similar for me. Just, it looks like under 1 inch to close to that 1 inch line on this particular model. The bullseye still over South Dakota and a little bit further south in Nebraska too. Still accumulating snows, although it looks like a little less for Omaha and Lincoln. Columbus, more snow in this model, looks like. And really much of the country, look how much of the country that normally has a white Christmas. Up here in the UP of Michigan, in Wisconsin, regular Michigan, northern Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York. I mean, just no snow on the ground for Christmas. Pretty unusual, not unheard of course, but it's just one of those years. I think we're going to make up for it for the first week of January. And then as we get into the day after Christmas and the days after Christmas, we start to see a little bit more cold and snow spreading across the Ohio Valley, the rest of the Midwest, and into New England. But that bullseye just hangs in there for South Dakota and northeastern Nebraska and a little bit into Iowa. Perhaps catching me here in Harlan. I sure hope so. So there you have it. Another look at the forecast for Christmas. I hope we get we're not going to have the definition of white Christmas, 1 inch of snow on the ground, looking pretty bleak here where I live, but it's going to be close. It really is. And even if I just see snow coming down Christmas afternoon and evening, that would be wonderful. In fact, I think I can show you the forecast. Let me update it here real quick. Because I know you care about where I live. I appreciate that. Let's see if it's cropped in here very well. Okay, so we're at 52 right now. And yeah, it's a little bit, some of it's cropped off here. Maybe I can fix that. Hang on. Made it worse. Okay, so mostly cloudy today, 52. We're at 52 right now. It's a little bit of sunshine, but a lot of clouds. Some more fog in the morning. We've had fog the last 2 mornings. It's been really cool. But temperature 47, and then the chance of rain starts by around 5 a.m. Tomorrow or Sunday, 100% chance of rain. That is tomorrow. So, and the temperature 55 and falling. And then as we get into Christmas, it's a tale of 2 days. So it's a rain Christmas morning before noon, and then rain and snow in the afternoon. And temperatures around 35 throughout the day, and the winds increasing out of the north. So then Monday night, Christmas night, rain and snow likely, then a chance of snow. Then Tuesday, snow. Tuesday night, a chance of snow. Wednesday, a slight chance of snow and rain and snow. And then it starts to clear up, but not warm up. So again, Christmas Day, 35. Monday night, 22, Tuesday, 31, Tuesday night, 22, Wednesday, 32, Wednesday night, 17, Thursday, 29, Thursday night, 13, and Friday, 26. So good 4 or 5 days solid without cracking the freezing mark. So we're going to start getting The lakes and the ponds around here. They did have ice, not the lakes, but the smaller ponds did have ice for a time when we got out of that cold snap in October. And even though it was somewhat warm in November, still most of the day below freezing. So those ponds had persistent ice too. That has melted. That's going to come back in a big way and may not go away for a while. Maybe even the big lake will start to freeze. I hope so. Hey, thanks for hanging with me for this long extended Vlogmas. I just wanted to see if we're going to have a white Christmas. And the answer is I still don't really know. Still don't really know. It could go either way. So I'm hoping. Certainly am. Well, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, whether it snows or not.